Since we have overdosed on Hungary in the first 3 videos, it's time to turn to a different topic. Discovering and conquering the New World is just as, if not more, interesting, so you can expect more videos on this subject in the coming weeks. In this first episode, I want to answer the question in the title, to see why Spain was first to initiate exploration and colonization of the Americas. Some people prefer simple explanations. They emphasize that since the King of Spain was the first to accept the seemingly crazy offer of an Italian mercenary, Columbus, his kingdom got to enjoy the benefits. Others may turn to a more ideological answer, claiming that an evil white man managed to convince a bunch of other evil white men, so they were the first to conquer and brutalize the innocent natives. Of course, reality is much more complex, and in most cases, we have to look at the underlying reasons. In this case, there were at least 3. We will take a look at all of them. In 1492, the Spanish Reconquista ended with the fall of the last Muslim emirate on the peninsula. Granada was conquered in that year, which meant that a 700-year-long conflict was finally over. You may think that once all the objectives were completed, everybody was content, and all the participants on the Spanish side lived happily ever after. The problem was that there were tens of thousands of soldiers who knew only one thing: how to soldier. This was an entire social class, specialized in combat, thanks to the 700-year-long fighting. Many of them had noble titles, but no land. No land, no stable income. No income, lots of frustrated people who were looking for the next target. Unfortunately for them, the newly united Kingdom of Spain could not simply continue to expand, because waging war against the Muslim states of North Africa was not a feasible option, at least not at that time. Naval invasion, getting a foothold on a new continent, and maintaining that foothold would have cost a lot more. It was time to look to new horizons, and make sure that most members of this class were kept busy before they turned on each other, or on the state. So, when Columbus tried once again to convince the royal couple to support his harebrained scheme, this time they consented to a small expedition with 3 ships that would sail to the west and possibly bump into China. What would happen next depended on the results of this first expedition. The Emirate of Granada had been useful. Its existence ensured that European countries had some sort of access to the exotic products of the Middle East and Asia. However, the Ottoman Turks were also expanding, closing down important trade routes one by one. New ones had to be found before all was lost, and the Iberian Peninsula was ideally located to start this process. This was the second reason. We know that Columbus had tried the same in Portugal in the 1480s, but he was turned down. The kings of Portugal had decided that going south and sailing around Africa to reach India was their best option. They successfully started trading using this long route, but the enormous distance made it very risky and costly to maintain contact and ensure the continuous flow of goods and money between the 2 continents. Columbus was convinced that there was a shorter alternative. China and India could be reached by sailing west, although he didn't know how long it would take to reach these lands. So it made perfect sense to start with Portugal and then move to Spain once his offer was declined in the first country. The Spanish royals wanted to control these shorter trade routes, mainly because they expected more income from it, which could be used to repay the bankers who financed their recent military victory. Since their Portuguese rivals chose the southern option, the rulers of Spain, Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile, finally relented and gave the western route a chance. What could they lose? 3 small ships and their crews, which was negligible when compared to the possible rewards. Trade with China and India, which would make Spain the richest country in Europe. This was reason number 3. In the end, they gained an empire, although the wealth and prestige that came with it were only temporary, for reasons we'll discuss in another video. So, to sum up, we can say that the discovery of the New World by Spain took place at the end of the 15th century, mainly for the following reasons. 1. There happened to be a crazy person fully convinced that sailing west was the best available option. 2. Spain finally ended the Reconquista by taking Granada, completing the elimination of Muslim rule on the peninsula. 3. There were thousands upon thousands of ex-soldiers who were looking for a new source of income without any obvious alternative to continued fighting and more adventures. 4. The rulers of Spain were already in debt. They also needed more revenue from new sources. And finally, 5. Spain was ideally located to initiate naval expeditions, with the possibility of establishing contact with the mystical empires of the East. All these factors played a role in kickstarting a new era, one in which Europe would become the main player on the international stage, establishing the Atlantic trade routes, conquering a new continent, and forming vast colonial empires. Spain was the first to do this. Portugal was not far behind, but soon more European countries would join them, from France and England through the Netherlands, all the way to Denmark and Sweden. In the next episode, we'll explain how the Americas were conquered. That process was also not as simple as some people would have you believe.